sports, I think, is normally bringing together a community and putting on a show or being part of something. So I suppose there is still that community element.
There is a culture to it, there's a group to it, there's a connectedness between hula hoopers.
Very family orientated, and the performers you work with is sort of very supportive in things, whereas maybe in mainstream sports, like the whole nation might be riding behind this one person, whereas maybe in circus it's more of a collaborative, as a group. You know, everyone's awesome within that circus group, but you're not all just pushing for that one, I don't know, stilt walker.
But there's a beauty to it. I really enjoy watching it. To me, it's not just the hoops, it's about the way that the body moves with the hoops as well.
The intention of this research project was to pick apart different aspects of aerial acrobatics, hula hooping and pole dancing, and to find a term describing these activities. What became apparent very quickly was that even within the scene, participants highlighted different elements. Some framed it in relation to competitive gymnastics, some called it a form of dance. Carolyn, who is a performer, academic researcher and runs her own night in Brighton, framed it within the realm of circus, which seems to have experienced a huge increase in popularity.
They have sort of come back. There's been a surge of people starting them and doing them again, because it's almost like a cool thing to do now as well in some ways.
The circus has so many different strands that you can do. It does feel more accepting and more like, oh, I could do that.
But nowadays you do have to be a bit more at the top of your game to do it. People just can't like spin plates. It has to be spectacular.
Framed within the field of spectacular, creative, unregulated activities, pole dancing, aerial acrobatics and hula hooping would not be considered serious sports. Belinda Wheaton, a sports sociologist at the University of Brighton, who has done extensive research into many unregulated physical activities, such as skateboarding or free running, describes these activities as something else.
So for me, sport is definitely not something that's competitive and involves formal institutions and so on. So in lots of ways, I would call circus skills part of sport, what I call lifestyle sports. If I was working in a dance environment, I might want to call these things an extension of just physical culture and dance.
Frequently mentioned in relation to dance is the term empowerment.
Empowerment is a really slippery idea, and I would say it's misused a lot. But it broadly refers, I think, certainly in terms of women, to give them opportunity to do things that traditionally they haven't been able to do. You know, women can climb mountains, they can hang off trapezes, you know, they can be on stage. And if that makes them feel better about themselves, that's really great. But unless there's a collective movement to challenge the kind of structures of power that are in place, maybe it's better described as other things, like just a boost in self-confidence.
From a sociologist's perspective, empowerment means to be challenging something in order to give new opportunities. In terms of pole dancing as an activity derived from the erotic realm and strip clubs, recontextualizing the activity as sensual erotic rather than sexual erotic could be seen as challenging the convention. One could also argue that these activities propose a new and different way of appreciating the form of the human body.
I do find it really empowering. I find dancing empowering, whether it's pole dancing or just moving or any form of movement. I think that's personally for me quite empowering if you're really attuned to your body and you know its limits and you know what it can do.
Carolyn focuses on acquiring physical skills as a key aspect of empowerment. Another quality of these activities is experienced by Ethan, who teaches children from disadvantaged backgrounds.
They may be a little bit shouty and boisterous first, but then when they're all up and doing it and they realise, then they all start encouraging each other, and it's that they've achieved it off their own back and not been belittled or put down by anything. It's just like, yes, you did this because you physically can do it. Well done, carry on.
Relating to the performance itself, Mina has got a very different view on empowerment. She is a performance art lecturer at the University of Brighton, and I asked her whether she saw hula hooping, aerial acrobatics and pole dancing as empowering activities.
I wouldn't automatically see it as empowered at all, because what quite often happens is you think, I'm making a piece about this, but really underneath that, what I want you to do is look at me and admire me. And that's the thing that I just think is lazy. You know, I just think it's intellectually lazy, and I don't buy it.
Summing up the arguments made, Mina challenges the view that empowerment is linked to being on stage. Participants outline bodily awareness and skills acquired as empowering qualities. And Belinda claims that for an activity to be empowering, it needs to challenge the status quo.
Performance of circus skills is probably seen as quite frivolous because it's done for entertainment, but for me that's a false dichotomy. That's not important. You know, it's about how people engage with the activity that matters.
Earlier we examined how participants engage with the activities in terms of the community and scene, but how do they engage with these frivolous notions?
So there is a huge sort of sexual element to it all, I think. But it is all looking at the form of the body. So with the silks, you're really interacting with the fabric, and it's all about shapes that you're pulling with it. So it's all about what your body's doing, your relationship with that apparatus.
There's so many different ways and means of going about it. Like there's really clowny hula hoopers, and there's really sexy hula hoopers, and there's really funny hula hoopers. And I think that there's an avenue for anyone to find their own style within it.
Yet a lot of the times, dance seems to have sensual, maybe sexual, or even erotic connotations, in particular when looking at pole dancing.
A lot of people sort of dislike pole dancing. It's got that stigma attached to it because of its erotic nature, but then that's where it's derived from. You know, it's a phallic symbol. It originated as a phallus. You know, you can't get away from that.
While Kat has recently competed in the UK Pole Championships, when she was 17 she started off in a strip club.
Walk around the pole or do a couple of spins and you're like, that is not pole dancing, and then when everyone's like, oh, isn't that stripping, and you're just like, no, they're very different things, trust me, like strippers don't go upside down.
But there's a lot of misconceptions when I say I'm a pole dancer, and it's like, that wasn't what we were expecting. We were just thinking you come in, take your clothes off and then walk off, and it's just like, no, it's a bit more of an act than that.
Hula hoop, aerial acrobatics and pole dancing not only share elements of dance, but at the same time show similarities in skills also required in competitive gymnastics. Anna used to do gymnastics, but is now doing a circus foundation at Aircraft Circus in London.
I wasn't good enough, I wasn't the best one. I just felt myself kind of disappointed sometimes, because you want to be the best, obviously, because that's the aim. If I do something to develop myself, I want to see the progress, and I want to know my mistakes, obviously, to get better and to improve them, but not to get stepped on by someone else and feel myself shit because someone else is judging me. I hate that feeling, because this is not encouraging you, it's just the opposite, it's just pulling you down.
This was the initial assumption. Gymnastics is disempowering, competitive and divisive. To gain another perspective, I went to Southwark Gym in London. Against expectations, the atmosphere there was very supportive and communal. Gymnasts told me about two different types of performance.
In displays, I know that I'm going to enjoy myself, whereas like in competition, I know I have to like try and do my best so I can get that place on the podium.
While the activities that I am looking at are traditionally non-regulated and non-competitive, some, particularly in the pole world, are taking the activities into the regulated and competitive arena, where they are framed as serious competitive sports.
The gymnastic, they mark you for points and for, you know, they mark you for different moves and you've got to do specific things, and I think that takes away from the artistic element of pole dancing, which is what I like about it.
If you're performing, you can do a move, and if you like gesture and do a nice facial expression, everyone's like, wow, that's the most impressive thing I've ever seen. But then at a competition, like half the people there, and the judges obviously, but they like know the moves, so they're like, that's not very hard.
I mean, I think some of the pole dancing performing that I do and that my dance partner and I do, it's a bit more variety, burlesque, circus, as opposed to in the pole dancing competition it's very sports bra and shorts, and there's nothing wrong with that at all, but it's just not my style. I'd rather have glitter and throw things and be a bit more theatrical and artistic with it.
I don't need to be ranked. I like to have it as, yeah, somebody can see my interpretation of a dance or something, as opposed to giving me marks out of 10 for what I did and how pointy my toes were.
Gymnastics is taught in a very rigid, structured way that focuses very much on particular types of movement and making bodies fit into the way that a gymnastics body is meant to be. So if the body's not flexible, you make it more flexible. You don't adapt the movements to your body that's a strong body, let's say. Gymnastics constrains a lot rather than opens up possibilities.
If I'm making a routine, then I can put my creativity into it and my ideas into it, as opposed to having to follow somebody else's linear path of what it should be.
It seems the main distinguishing factors of the two arenas are role of individuality and creativity. Anna highlights another factor which has yet remained unmentioned, but holds an important role in all circus, dance and gymnastics.
If it wasn't seen or if it wasn't watched, you wouldn't enjoy it as much. Look what I'm doing, look. I'm gonna share with you and look what I can give to you. I'm doing it and like I want you to see it and have this experience with me, though you're not up there.
If we see performance as the centre of these activities, how can we define them?
Aerial acrobatics, hula hooping and pole dancing. I see those as performing activities and skills that can be used and employed in different kinds of contexts and different kinds of works. If aerial acrobatics is in a circus, then it's a particular form of entertainment, isn't it? But in itself, it isn't necessarily so.
So again, I think it kind of depends where you're doing it and who the audience is as well. I think has a big impact on whether it's a sport or just a performance.
Wrapping up the elements outlined, the activities that I am looking at seem to be heavily context dependent. Maybe what I am looking at is a snapshot of activities, a scene at a specific time and place, an area in transition.
And maybe the circus skill stuff does challenge things, because it challenges, ideas of what we think physical culture is about and what taking part in physical activity is about, and actually what performing is about. That it can be much more free and different.